The elders spoke in hushed tones beneath the old oak tree, its branches arching protectively over them, as if listening to their every word. For weeks they had deliberated over the same question. Where had the people gone astray, and how could they restore the harmony of the land? The once balanced relationship with Earth felt broken, as though an ancient promise had been cast aside. Whispers carried across the longhouse fires about the old stories. The time when Skywoman first fell from the heavens and brought new life to the earth upon the back of a giant turtle. That original covenant, an agreement of respect and stewardship, had guided many generations. But now, the people had forgotten their duty. Fields withered, animals vanished from their usual habitats, and the sky itself seemed to brood. Thick with unshed tears, the elders prayed for guidance, calling upon the spirits to recall the old ways, hoping someone pure of heart would light the path back to the ancient balance. Throughout the long nights, a young woman named Wari Sensatste stood by the edges of these gatherings, listening carefully. She wasn't yet an elder, but a stirring in her heart told her the old stories of Skywoman were not just half-forgotten legends. In her dreams, she smelt sweet grass and heard voices whispering from beyond, beckoning her to open her heart to something extraordinary. Each dawn, Wahin Satsti woke with a renewed sense of urgency, an inexplicable certainty that something monumental was about to unfold. One evening, as the sun dipped low, she accepted an invitation from her elderly grandmother to visit a secluded clearing near the village. A trickle of water from an ancient spring fed this small hidden pasture, and massive pine trees surrounded it like sentinels. The place seemed alive with the beating pulse of the earth. Grandmother's voice was soft yet clear as she recounted how the people had once walked in harmony with all living things. In those days, no one took more than they needed, and every bit of the harvest was honored in gratitude toward the land. Skywoman gifted us the seeds of life, her grandmother said. She gave us sunflowers, corn, beans, and squash. She made a covenant with our ancestors that if we cared for the earth would always care for us. But the people drifted from these teachings. Greed, forgetfulness, and disrespect have taken root. It is said Skywoman can return, but only if she sees that there is still hope among the living, that at least one person remains capable of renewing those ancient warrior. Satste listened, her heart pounding. She imagined the original descent of Skywoman, how the great geese caught her gently as she fell, how the animals labored to bring mud from beneath the waters, placing it on Turtle's back to form the land. Between her grandmother's words and her own dreams, she felt called to act. There was a yearning within her, a sense of purpose she could not ignore. That night, Warahon Satste dreamt of a vast, dark expanse of sky. Within it, a faint figure of a woman shone with a pale glow, her feet bare, raven hair swirling around her as though stirred by an otherworldly breeze. The figure raised her hand, beckoning silently. She did not speak, yet her eyes revealed both sadness and hope. Warahon Satste reached out, and as their fingertips brushed, a shock of warmth jolted through her. A powerful sense of connection to something infinitely ancient and wise. In her dream, she heard a resonant voice. "Gather, my children, let them bear witness to what was and can be again." Then the dark sky was replaced by the morning sun, and Wahihen Sexti awoke, tears on her cheeks. Although shaken by the dream's intensity, she felt an undeniable resolution forming within her. She would do as Skywoman instructed. She spoke to her grandparents and trusted elders, telling them of her dream in full detail. At first, some frowned in skepticism, acknowledging that the legends of Skywoman's return were indeed just that, unverified legends. Yet her conviction was so strong, her spirit so bright, that the elders decided to gather the people. They told them of Waris Feisti's dream and invited all to come to the sacred clearing at twilight, to pray and learn how to restore the covenant. As dusk spread purples and oranges across the sky, men, women, and children arrived in the clearing. Some came out of curiosity, others out of deep longing. A few were merely bored. They saw these stories as antiquated rituals, best left in the past. Yet there was a hush among them as Warihensat stepped forward and spoke solemnly. "In my dream, Skywoman beckoned," she said. She spoke not with words, but with a deep understanding. "This covenant we have broken is a sacred bond, older than memory. She is prepared to return and show us the way, but only if we prove worthy. Tonight, I invite each of us to open our hearts, to call upon her with honesty and respect. Let us ask for her guidance." The people formed a circle, holding hands in silence. One by one, elders rose to speak of times gone by, of the fundamental unity between humans, animals, and the earth. Voices softly carried gratitude for the waters, the plants, the birds, the fish. They admitted to their oversight and pledged to live in balance once again. A gentle breeze stirred the canopy above, and the hush of the gathering seemed alive with anticipation. Moments stretched, and some of the younger onlookers began to shift in discomfort. Then, as a faint silver light crossed the clearing, a luminous presence took shape. Standing at the center, appearing like a memory at first, was a figure. Her hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes radiated a gentle, loving light. She looked ageless, skin shimmering as though touched by moonlight. Although it was subtle, everyone in the circle sensed who she was, and an awe-filled silence fell. Skywoman had returned. At first, no words passed her lips, and some wondered if she would speak at all. Then a soft voice, calm as a still lake, asked, "Do you remember me?" A wave of wonder passed through the gathering. Children, wide-eyed, pressed closer to their parents. The elders bowed their heads reverently, tears in their eyes. Warihensat found courage surging in her chest, and she stepped forward. "I remember the stories my grandmother told me. I have carried them in my dreams." Her voice quavered with emotion. "We have broken our promise, Great One, and we seek your guidance in repairing what was lost." Skywoman's gaze swept over the people. A gentle sadness colored her features as she regarded those who denied the old ways. Nonetheless, hope shone on her face. This earth was created for all beings to share. When I first came among you, the animals helped me to form the land. We made a covenant. Respect all life, and the earth will nourish you. Honor water, the plants, the creatures that crawl, and those that soar. But I see that in your forgetfulness, the land has grown weary. The animals retreated, and the sweet grass does not smell as it once did. How will you renew our covenant?" A hush ran through the crowd. One of the hunters, a man known for his skill but also for taking more than he needed, stepped forward, clutching his spear. Tears laced his voice as he admitted, "I have hunted beyond what I or my family requires. I have ignored the gratitude once given to the Great Spirit. I vow to act differently, to take only what will sustain us, and to give thanks after every catch. If you guide us, I will make it my duty to protect the wildlife." A mother followed, explaining how she had abandoned the ceremony of planting with thanks to Mother Earth. She, too, promised to restore that custom and teach her children to treat every seed as sacred. One by one, more confessions emerged. People who had been careless with their waste, or had forgotten to thank the waters, or had uprooted plants without reverence. Each pledge to improve their ways seemed to radiate through the gathering like a gentle wave of humility and hope. Skywoman listened intently, her expression changing from sorrow to something that resembled cautious optimism. "Words are the seeds of action," she said, a subtle yet piercing resonance in her voice. "Plant them well, water them with intention, and they shall bear fruit." As her gaze flickered across the assembly, she paused and fixed her attention on Warihensat. "You felt my call in your dreams. You stood bravely, urging these people to remember their ancient citizenship with the earth. For that, you have my gratitude. But the path ahead is not easy. Are you prepared to stand by these vows until your last breath? Warian Saitsta, heart fluttering in her chest, answered, I am prepared. I will do everything I can to help fulfill the covenant. A sudden breeze coursed through the trees, sending fallen leaves swirling around the circle. Skywoman inclined her head. Then let our renewal commence, she whispered. Without another word, she lifted her arms. Silvery strands of light gathered around her, weaving a luminescent tapestry that seemed to bind the circle together. The people watched, transfixed, as a tangible sense of unity descended. Nearby, the elders closed their eyes, tears streaming silently down their cheeks. Then, like a dream dissolving, Skywoman slowly vanished, though her presence lingered in a soft glow that illuminated the clearing. The people found themselves trembling, hearts pounding, not from fear but from the magnitude of what they had witnessed. After a timeless moment, the hush lifted, replaced by fervent conversation. The children asked excitedly if they could see Skywoman again, while the elders marveled at having their ancestral stories confirmed before their very eyes. Word spread quickly through the villages, and soon others arrived, eager to witness the restoration that had been set in motion. When daybreak came, Warihinchartstet gathered volunteers to begin cleansing the rivers, removing debris, and offering a prayer for the water's vitality. The hunter who had confessed his overhunting organized a small band to replant forested areas that had been stripped. Each group worked diligently, filled with purpose. They recognized that to truly honor Skywoman's return, they must embrace a radical shift in how they treated the earth and one another. Meanwhile, the clearing where Skywoman appeared became a place of gathering and thanksgiving. Each evening, families brought offerings, newly harvested corn, fresh berries, or woven baskets. They placed these tokens in a circle, quietly expressing gratitude. In meaningful gestures, they asked permission from the earth before taking from it, and they ended each hunt, each harvest, with prayers of appreciation. It did not happen all at once, but slowly the changes in behavior began to yield tangible results. The fish returned in greater numbers to the rivers, and the fields suffering from dryness showed renewed vitality. Children played among blossoming flowers, their laughter sweet as birdsong. The elders began to recount the old tales with renewed vigor, instructing younger generations in the significance of balance and reciprocity. Through it all, Wahinsatsta found herself meditating upon Skywoman's words. Words are the seeds of action. Plant them well. One late afternoon, as autumn's colors began to weave the forests in reds and golds, Wahinsatsta noticed something extraordinary by the old oak tree. In that very spot where she had first listened to the elders' troubled worries, there now rose a young sapling that seemed to shimmer with an unusual vitality. Every time she approached it, an almost musical hum resonated around it, like the earth was singing through its roots. She recalled how Skywoman had vanished in a swirl of luminous strands. Could it be that this sapling was a sign of her continued presence? As the months passed, Warihinsatsti tended to the sapling daily. She watered it with pure intentions, prayed beside it, and listened quietly for any guiding whispers the earth might provide. Her grandmother often came to stand with her, gazing reverently at the tree, but never touching it. "There is powerful magic at work here," her grandmother said, "a manifestation of the covenant. As this tree grows, so should our commitment to live in harmony. Should one waver, so will the other." In quiet hours, Warihinsatsti pondered these words. She could sense that the people still carried old habits. Not everyone was truly changing. Some only performed acts of reverence to appear compliant, but still took more than they needed, out of greed or ignorance. The covenant was renewed in spirit, but its survival depended on everyone. She worried that, if left unaddressed, those hidden pockets of selfishness might grow. So she and the elders called a council meeting, inviting every member of the community. There, under a harvest moon, they spoke openly of challenges and confusions. Some admitted they found it hard to change deeply ingrained habits. Another pointed out that a family who lived downriver rarely participated in ceremonies, choosing instead to focus on trade with distant villages. Rumours suggested that they cut down swathes of forest, ignoring the communal vow. After a long debate, Warehensati addressed them. We must approach those who have strayed, not in anger, but with compassion. If we condemn or cast them aside, we only dishonour our covenant. The earth needs every one of us to work in unison. Let us visit them without judgment, teaching them gently, reminding them of their role in creation. The council agreed. A small delegation, guided by Warehensati and her grandmother, journeyed downstream. After 2 days of walking, they arrived at a settlement by the riverbank, where the once lush forests had been replaced by barren, stumpy clearings. Smoke from constant fires blurred the horizon. They found the villagers toiling under the scorching sun, felling more trees to build canoes for trading. The visitors' hearts clenched at the devastation it caused the land. The leader of the riverside settlement met them, somewhat wary but not hostile. Warehensati decided to speak plainly, yet with kindness. We too once forgot. We neglected our promises to the earth. But Skywoman has returned, giving us another chance to honour the old ways. Your home is part of our shared world. What happens here ripples out across the land, affecting all life. Please, consider working with us to regrow what we have taken. At first, the settlement's leader questioned Skywoman's return. Several of his people doubted the story, since they had not witnessed it themselves. However, one woman stepped forward, explaining that she, in fact, had heard whispers on the wind. She had noticed the wildlife diminishing and had dreamt of a woman glowing with moonlight, beckoning her to rethink their relationship with the land. The leader, recognizing that some of his people were troubled and that trade profits alone did nothing to restore the balance, agreed to a compromise. They would reduce their logging activities and participate in reforesting efforts. In exchange, the visiting group promised to assist them in finding more sustainable ways to shape canoes and cultivate goods for trade methods that aligned with the covenant. Returning from that journey, Warehensati's delegation brought news of a gradual but meaningful shift. The people took heart, believing that maybe, just maybe, the promise was truly being reborn throughout the land. When the final harvest approached, the atmosphere in the village felt vibrant and full of purpose. Everyone, even the children, seemed to understand that their careful stewardship mattered. They gathered in the fields, celebrating the three sisters' corn, beans, and squash, whose synergy nourished both the soil and the people. That evening, while songs rose around crackling fires, Warehensati found herself gazing skyward. The evening stars blinked in the velvety darkness, and a gentle wind whispered through the trees. She felt an urge to return to the clearing alone, to see if Skywoman might appear once more, or if she might at least feel the reassurance of her presence. When she arrived, the clearing seemed faintly illuminated by moonlight. The sapling had grown taller than her waist, its trunk firm, leaves shining with a strange radiance in the night. She knelt beside it, placing one hand gently against the bark. A soothing pulse coursed through her fingertips. Encouraged, Warehensati closed her eyes. She sensed a presence behind her. Turning, she glimpsed a faint figure stepping lightly across the grass. Skywoman's form was no longer as distant. Her face was gentle yet strong in its resolve. This time, she spoke with a warmth that rushed through the space between them. "You have done well to keep your promise alive," she said, "but the work has only begun. A covenant such as ours requires continual renewal. It does not stay intact by mere words alone. It must be lived and breathed every day." Warehensati bowed her head. "I understand." Skywoman knelt beside her, placing a shimmering hand upon the sapling. The pulsing in the bark intensified, and for a moment the moonlit clearing brightened, as if touched by a hidden sun. Let this tree stand as a testament. When your children's children ask about our bond, show them this living memory. Remind them that the earth is not a lifeless object to be used at will. She is our mother, and we must treat her as such. Her voice grew quieter, gentler still, as though speaking directly into Warihainsatta's heart. In every generation, people will forget. Some will turn away from these truths for moments or entire lifetimes, yet there will always be those who remember. Seek them out. Nurture them. The covenant does not rest on one pair of shoulders. It is shared by all. Tears pricked Warihainsatta's eyes. She reached out, and though her hand moved through Skywoman's shimmering silhouette, she felt a warm rush of energy, a profound connection surging through her being. "I promise," she whispered, "we will keep the covenant alive whenever it falters." Skywoman smiled, radiating both sorrow and joy. "Should the time come when hearts grow cold, call upon me again. I will return, as I do now, to remind humanity of this ancient bond. Work with humility and remember that love and respect for all creatures is the foundation of life." Warihainsatta opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Maybe none were needed. In time, Skywoman's figure faded into the night, leaving behind a gentle glow that cradled the sapling's leaves. A calm hush settled over the clearing. When Warihainsatta returned to the village, she found the fires still burning, people singing in celebration of the harvest. Telling them of her second encounter, she emphasized Skywoman's message, that vigilance, humility, and continuous care were the keys to keeping the covenant. They listened with renewed awe, and when the festival concluded, many families lay awake, hearts full of purpose. A sense of gratitude and devotion spread throughout every conversation. In the weeks to come, any time new seeds were planted, or fishing nets were laid, or a lone hunter ventured into the woods, the people reminded themselves of Skywoman's presence. "We are stewards," they whispered, as each arrow was notched, each seed pressed into fertile ground. Perhaps they would struggle at times, for old habits clung like vines, but they had a living witness in their midst, a growing tree, shining of promise, quietly reminding them of the vow. In that luminous hush that divides day from night, Warihainsatta often found herself at the foot of the sapling. She would murmur prayers or simply sit in silent reverence. When she listened closely, she heard the earth's heartbeat resonate through the ground. A gentle voice in her mind recalled Skywoman's final counsel. There will always be those who remember. Seasons turned, and the people of the Turtle Island found renewed harmony with the land. The fields grew abundant, the rivers teemed with fish again, and the animals wandered closer without fear. The covenant, though fragile, was alive, upheld by the dedication of the community. Now, when the oldest elders gathered beneath the oak tree, their discussions reflected hope rather than despair. Children grew up hearing not only the story of how Skywoman first fell from the heavens, but also how she lovingly returned ages later to help mend the bond that had been broken. Sometimes, a quiet hush would fall in the village at twilight, and a soft glow might be seen moving through the trees, prompting curious murmurs. A mother would hush her child, reminding them that it could be Skywoman watching over them. And if it was just a trick of the moonlight, no one seemed especially concerned. The possibility alone reminded the people that they were caretakers of an ancestral promise, not mere consumers of the earth's bounty. As for Warihainsatta, she carried Skywoman's charge close to her heart. She travelled often between the different villages, bridging understanding wherever disputes arose about resources or territory. In the darkest of times, she would speak with unwavering conviction about how shared respect for the earth must guide their decisions. Over time, her leadership and compassion earned her the trust of many, and as years passed, she was invited into circles of elders. No longer standing just at the edge, she found herself guiding the conversations that shaped the people's actions. Yet, in her heart of hearts, Wairahesate understood that her efforts, too, were a portion of a cycle. She would age, she would pass. Others would inherit her role, because that is the nature of life. Still, the sapling continued to grow, its trunk thickening, its roots stretching beneath the earth like steadfast anchors supporting a blossoming canopy. In that living testament, Wairahesate saw a reflection of the people's renewed bond. When storms raged, the tree bent and swayed but refused to break. When summers scorched, its leaves might wilt slightly, yet with each turn of the seasons, it survived. This resilience became an enduring symbol of their covenant, not a perfect union, but a promise that continued to rise like new growth after being tested by wind and drought. On the day Wairahesate finally felt the weight of many winters pressing upon her, she placed a trembling hand on the now towering trunk. She closed her eyes, feeling her pulse merge with the faint hum of life coursing just beneath the bark. She remembered the luminous figure who once knelt beside her. She remembered how her grandmother's words had first kindled her hope, and how the despair of the elders had sparked her journeys to restore balance. She remembered the night Skywoman appeared before them all, shimmering with compassion. In one last moment of reflection, she felt certain that although she would soon depart for the spirit world, the renewed covenant would stand as long as at least one person carried it forward. Seasons would change, storms would come, but the pattern persisted, forgetting and remembering, drifting and returning, always guided by those with open hearts who listened for Skywoman's voice in dream or vision. Kneeling on the forest floor, she thanked the earth, thanked Skywoman, thanked the entire tapestry of life for allowing her to play a part in weaving it back together. When she rose to leave, she looked over her shoulder and thought she glimpsed the faintest shimmer of white among the trees, as though someone stood there, smiling, encouraging her onward. Whether it was just the play of the late afternoon light or indeed Skywoman's presence, she decided it mattered little. The land had been enriched, the people rekindled, and the covenant renewed. Skywoman's soothing spirit would remain woven into the wind, the trees, and the hearts of any who dared to remember.